Thank you all, and please welcome Dr. Hamade.
Thank you, and thank you all for joining my session today. I'm glad to connect again with Walden University, and this time as an alumnus and as Dr. Hiba Hamade. I recently earned my PhD degree in management, and today I'm going to share my experience and my completed proposal. As indicated in the title, I discussed or showed the relationship between leadership styles of millennials and organizational effectiveness, basically focusing on the industry of business consulting and in Lebanon. Please, can we move next? As we all know, millennials are the major change drivers in organizations today, and their integration will result in changes in the dynamics of the work environment. And evenly, additional factor that is the integration of women recently, especially that they are working on themselves, having career advancement, and also trying to reach high positions in their working environment. That's why this led to the problem statement in my research study that was managers and leaders do not understand how millennial leadership styles and gender and business consulting organizations influence organizational outcomes in terms of extra effort, effectiveness, and satisfaction. The purpose of this study was to examine the relationship between the independent variables, in my case were gender and leadership styles, and the dependent variable that is organizational outcomes, and this is a quantitative study. This study may be an added value to the leadership and management field, especially that this is raising awareness about the different leadership differences, the generation differences, and even it's time to work on developing new leadership strategies and frameworks, especially after the COVID-19 pandemic phase. We are all noticing that organizations are reassessing their work environment, whether going back to the 9-to-5 work or more into the flexible and hybrid model. The theoretical framework that was based on this study was related to Bass and Avolio 1993 framework that usually tackles three main leadership behavioral styles of transformational, transactional, and laissez-faire leadership style. And also I used the MLQ or the Multifactor Leadership Questionnaire survey. Can we move next, please? When it comes to the literature review, and that's the most important part when you are writing your proposal, the most important sections that were tackled in the literature review mainly tackled the main keywords of the proposal related to generation cohorts, generation gap, leadership, the challenges in managing a diverse workforce, gender diversity, leadership styles, and organizational outcomes. And I presented in the second slide a diagram. And this diagram summarizes the literature review and summarizes the main factors that the study was revolving around and how such factors might affect the organization, whether maintaining the balance and moving into organization success, or if they may hinder the development of the organization. Please, next. This took me to the research questions. While writing our dissertation, we have to make sure that we have alignment among the problem statement, purpose, and research questions. And I tackled 3 research questions in my study, where we need to study the relationship between the different leadership styles of millennial generation, gender, and organizational outcomes. Since my study I applied the quantitative method, then I had to use the SurveyMonkey. It's an online survey where it hosted the survey questions in terms of demographic questions, the consent form, and the MLQ 5X short leader form survey questions that consist of 45 questions in order to collect data. My study more focused on a certain targeted sample of participants, and we need to make sure that they were of millennial generation, aged between 21 and 38 years, working in the industry of consulting, having a minimum background degree of bachelor degree, and practicing a leadership role. Upon collecting data and reaching the minimum number of participants required as a sample size, then I went on deactivating the link, the server link, and moving to the next process of data analysis and data cleaning. And when I used data analysis, I had to move through descriptive statistics for analyzing the demographic questions in terms of gender, the educational background, the leadership role, and the consulting field. And also I used the multiple regression analysis in order to study the research questions. Next, please. Focusing on the findings of the research, we noticed that both types of leadership styles, transformational and transactional, showed significant relationship with organization outcomes, whereas laissez-faire leadership styles did not show any significance or relationship with organization outcomes. Also, gender, that was a factor studied, gender showed is not a predictor and does not affect organizational outcomes. Next, please. So among these interpretations, this means that transformational and transactional leadership practices are important to be available within the organization hierarchy. However, it's more directing towards transformational leadership practices that are more exhibited than transactional. And gender is no longer a factor to affect the organizational outcomes. This study showed certain limitations in terms of the characteristics of the pool of participants, since it was more directed into a specific generation and industry type, and also showed limitations in terms of the survey tool used, since 45 questions, some participants might think this is a long survey. That's why this study is a foundation for future research and practices, and more into using different methodologies to study the relationship between the variables, or in expanding the scope and more integrating different industries and expanding to different countries. This study may show social change impact on 3 levels. First, on the individual level. This means individuals in the organizations have the right to start self-assessing themselves in terms of determining what type of leadership behavior style they have and how they can improve their skills. Second, on organizational level, this also helps organizations and leaders within organizations more identifying what type of leadership styles are being exercised among individuals, and trying to build this collaborative and inclusive environment among their employees. And third, on societal level, each society needs to make sure that organizations are maintaining sustainability, and this cannot be done without focusing on the health and on the well-being of the employees, and even trying to strengthening the relationship among the different employees within the organization, and this will help on attracting more going beyond organizations and building new networking stakeholders with different organizations. This is in brief what my research study or completed proposal was about. And also I shared some references, and I'm more welcome to answer any question or share my journey experience during this session.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for that overview. To start us off, please, and ask your questions in the chat box. We're happy to answer those for you today. To kick us off for the Q&A, what challenges did you face during your research, and how did you overcome them?
During my research, I faced so many challenges. One on a country level, because I'm from Beirut, Lebanon. So I had to face personally so many challenges, starting especially when it came to finalizing my research after the Beirut blast and the financial crisis. So that was one of the challenges, and where I had to take the decision of either moving forward and finalizing or stopping. And I'm glad that I took the right decision of finalizing my degree. Second, during the dissertation process, you find so many challenges, especially that each one of us already have a lot on our plate, whether family commitments, work commitments, and you reach a phase sometimes that you feel down, and you need to have this long-term commitment. So make sure that to always connect with colleagues or friends to push you move forward within this journey. Third, the main challenge that I have faced while writing this dissertation is chapter 2, literature review, and I think all will face this. So I had to find a strategy how to work and write chapter 2, especially that the minimum number of pages was 20. And then when it comes to more identifying the different statistical tests, whether to use what type of test. So especially that I'm a quantitative method applying, so I had to refer back to Walden resources, and they are amazing. So please make sure all to benefit from these resources. I went back to Statistic Tutor and other resources that were helpful. And as an advice, and I noticed that one of our participants is my chair. So I have to say thank you, and make sure to build connection with your chair and committee members. Make sure to have this bridge. They will be helpful in guiding you throughout all the process, and make sure to reach out to them. I know sometimes we look into things from different perspectives, but try to have a common ground with your chair and committee members, and always refer back to them.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I think you kind of knew what what I was going to ask you next, and you already started giving some great advice. But for someone just starting their research, what advice would you give them on how to get started and how to kind of frame their thinking throughout the process?
I know that the main issue at first, where we all tackled when it comes to narrowing down our topic, we all think of broad titles, broad questions. So the main challenge is to go and narrow down our topics. So it's good that residencies are important. I did great connection during residencies with peer colleagues, whether we're second or third or fourth. They helped me in narrowing down my topic. Try to discuss your topic with a friend. Try to voice out what you are thinking of. This will help you to narrow down. Research, for sure, we have to go back and to research, and go back to your chair or advisor. They will help you and give you the tips of how to narrow down your topic.
Excellent advice. We actually have two questions from Jack. He says, very interesting study, 2 questions. 1, the analysis. Can you please describe that? And 2, why was transformational the dominant leadership style observed?
Okay. The first question, I think more into the details of the analysis. This one, it comes to the quantitative method. So upon finalizing your research questions and identifying what type of statistical tests, in my case, it's relationship. That's why I went to multiple regression, and I have 2 independent variables. So it's more of multiple regression analysis. Second, you have to start looking into the tools that you need to use. So since it's quantitative, I have to go through survey. SurveyMonkey is the best. In my case, it was easy for me, and I had to go back to purchase the license of the Multifactor Leadership Questionnaire form. And for sure, before start collecting data, you have to go back to your IRB and grant your IRB approval. And once you have this IRB approval, where you identify how you are going to collect your data, I collected them through LinkedIn, social media LinkedIn, by posting a note and the SurveyMonkey link. And you have to track, you have to post follow-up reminders until you reach the minimum number of required participants needed. And this minimum sample size is usually determined by using the G-Power analysis. It's a software. You are going to use it. It's an easy software. And then accordingly, once you have the data, you extract it into an Excel sheet and you start looking into the data. You have to make sure that all participants are related to your inclusion and exclusion criteria. You have to make sure no missing records or info. And then you have to start preparing your Excel sheet to import it into SPSS. So in my case, let's say I changed gender. I did the coding for gender as female and male 0 and 1. I have to work on the leadership, transformation leadership style by calculating the average of the certain questions related. So I did this for each leadership style behavior and then for the organizational outcomes. So it's more of calculating the average numbers within each one, and I followed the manual. So that's why the manual is helpful to follow when it comes to using this questionnaire. And once the Excel sheet was ready, I had to import it into SPSS, and accordingly, you start analyzing using SPSS in terms of demographics or multiple regression analysis. In my case, I also referred back to a statistic tutor within Walden Resources. They're also helpful to at least to give you the keywords or the tricks how you need to answer each research question. And for sure, we have to follow the APA style when it comes to formatting of graphs and tables. What's the next? Can you remind me of the next?
Well, sure. The second question was, why was transformational the dominant leadership style observed?
This is related to my sample study because I used a minimum number of 68 participants, and this depends on the average scores and depends on the figures resulted according to statistical. So I compared this according to R, that is the coefficient, Pearson coefficient correlation. And it seems that the R of transformational was higher in my case than transactional, but both showed a positive relationship with organizational outcomes.
Excellent. We have a few more questions coming in here.
Yes.
Did you encounter any challenges in your recruitment procedures? That's a question from Valentine.
I faced some challenges. That's why I had to follow up on the number progress, and I had to post several reminders. In my case, I used only LinkedIn. As an advice, make sure if you are going to collect data through social media, not only to limit yourself to one source, that is LinkedIn. Depending on the topic, depending on what data, and especially in my case, it was more targeting millennials. So yes, I found some challenges, but I was able to move forward. Some other researchers, maybe it's easy for them if you are targeting more a different scope of participants.
Excellent. We have another question here from Ellen. What methods did you find best to organize your research, i.e. Excel, spreadsheets, reference software, etc.?
Okay, I used EndNote software. Through research, you'll read so many articles, journals. So I made sure that I only add to EndNote software what articles, peer-reviewed articles, I'm going to include in my research, because you'll reach a stage that you will have a lot of articles, journals, websites, and you need to make sure that you are going to go back to them when it comes to references. You need more elaboration or whatever. So that's why I made sure
Looks like we are experiencing a technical issue with our speaker. Oh, and she's back.
I'm back. Sorry. Sorry, but I'm living in Beirut, Lebanon. So this is one of the challenges of electricity cut you might face while working, writing a research or whatever. So end-on software is good and helps you, and also in doing the references, whether APA, and you sure you need to have your own if you know your own workbook of notes, whether Excel sheets or any organizational process you are going to apply. This varies from one individual to another depending how you would like to organize your work, but make sure that you store them all in one safe place.
Wonderful. Thank you for diving into that question. You know, we do have a few more minutes. If anyone has additional questions, please feel free to place those into the chat. We've also got some wonderful comments coming in. Just want to say that Jack wrote in, thank you for the detailed explanation. You clearly understand the critical issues related to producing reliable and valid results. Regression analysis, I am impressed. Sampling approach via LinkedIn, very interesting. Thank you. Thank you, Jack, for that wonderful comment. Ellen also said, perfect, thank you for answering her question. And Valentine said, well explained. Thank you.
Thank you all. I'm more than happy to help them or share my experience while moving forward in their research. And I think one question I see regarding research alignment. Eventually, research alignment is going to flow with you as you move forward. You have to make sure that your problem statement aligns with your purpose. This means that you will find yourself at one stage that you are repeating same statements in your proposal or dissertation, and they need to align with problem statement, purpose, your research questions, your quantitative method, your analysis. Don't worry about this. It will move forward with you as you move forward in writing the dissertation, and you'll be able to find out the alignment among all.
Excellent. We have another question or another follow-up from Valentine. Can you discuss the social change impact?
Yes. This is mainly once you reach chapter 5 and writing your dissertation. So it's more of you start giving your interpretations and recommendations and social impact. I took this on 3 different levels, especially when we are working with employees within organizations. So you have to start with individual basis in terms of identifying what type of leadership or self-assessment leadership behavior you are implementing in your work, whether you are, and this depends on your role, whether you are leading a managing position or a frontline position or any type of job task. So this comes by self-assessing yourself. You have to make sure how you need to move forward in your career, and this starts on your personal development. On an organizational level, this starts to have the relationship between employees among each other and employees and the hierarchy of the organization with leaders and managers. So, so whenever you, at least we all face this in our working environment, that you need to have this chemistry among employees and your leaders. So this will impact in a way if we start understanding each other's behavior, leadership styles, how we think, how we analyze, how we apply our work. So we will have more cohesive and inclusive environment, especially now that one of my variables was gender. So females and males. In our Arab countries, we still have this discrepancy between females, males, or females not able to move forward into high positions. So, so it's time to have more inclusive environment and more diverse, gender diverse environment. And on a societal level, this means that we all need at the end of the day, our organization to lead to have a performance of success and to maintain continuity. And this is one of the examples. And in previous year during the pandemic, all leaders had to find a way to strengthen this relationship among their employees, to be of a good health, well-being, in order to be able to move forward in our work and organizations and compete with others. So so this whole relationship or chemistry within each organization is essential in order to be able to move forward or to reach a stage where your organization will no longer continue.
Thank you. At this time, do we have any additional questions? Oh, we do have another question. Any idea how the result of your study affects the same population in the US?
It's not going to, I'm not sure if it's going to affect the same US population. And I think this is one of the questions that they usually ask your committee members. This research is based on the scope of my participants and industry. So that's why such research might be replicated. And one of the recommendations were to try to apply it in a different country, or to have a cross comparison among different countries in order to make sure if such results might change or applicable in different US or Europe countries.
Excellent. We do still have some time for any additional questions that may come in. In the meantime, do you have any other final remarks or comments that you'd like to share with our group here today?
Final remarks or comment? Yes, enjoy your journey. I know it's a very long one. It's as if you are getting married to your dissertation. It needs long term. Take it easy. We all have a lot on our plate, whether working commitments or family commitments. Try to enjoy it. It's really, once you wrap up all this and you reach the stage of being called as doctor, it's a great achievement, and deep inside on a personal level you will be able to shift to a new person. And make sure that you stay in connection with your colleagues, whether students, mentors, benefit from the university resources, and bridge your connection with your committee.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Dr. Hamade. Really appreciate you being with us here today, and congratulations on.
Thank you so much. And I'm glad to go back to Walden University and to this community. And thank you for all who attended today, and hopefully looking forward for future conferences.